How to not give a rat's rear, or bum, or derriere, depending on how you want to look at it. Well, I think it comes down to age, maturity, and I mean, when I say age, I really mean kind of a maturity level, because not giving a rat's rear is about understanding that anything you do in life doesn't really have the kind of impact that you might believe it does at first. And if you put too much pressure on yourself, or you have sort of these anxieties, you're going to overly care about what people think about every little thing that you do, and then you'll care about opinions. And I have found, I'm getting older, that it doesn't really matter what I do. Everyone's so busy in the world doing their own thing that the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can create for yourself, first and foremost. And those who do care will pay attention. But the reactions are not as extreme as you might think if you can disassociate yourself from good and bad, so that you can understand that the bad people are so busy with their own lives that they're lashing out, and that's essentially what they're doing. So to give a rat's rear about those people is not doing you any good, and it's giving the wrong people attention. You can focus your attention on people who are positive, who support what you're doing, and tune out the bad people, because the sooner you realize that those bad people, they're struggling in their own ways, you can have some sort of empathy or sympathy for their situation and move on. There are too many people who could make amazing things, but they're worried about what people think. It's the greatest downfall to humankind, is caring what other people think to a very high degree. I'm not saying you have to ignore everyone, but you can listen, acknowledge, and then move forward. You don't have to take the feedback you're given. You can just acknowledge it and move forward. And the sooner you do not give a rat's rear, the sooner you can freely create things. You see, as children, we're actually really good at not giving a rat's rear. As children, we're free, and we can do what we want. We don't understand the repercussions at that age, so we just do a bunch of random things. We play freely. as we get older, the rules seem to change. Oh, I'm mature now, and I have to be serious. But actually, the question is you're saying that a creative pursuit isn't serious? That's not the right way of thinking. It's a fulfilling activity, and it complements whatever you're doing. You can live a serious life and have creativity as a side piece or a main piece. And just because it might look silly to some, it's actually a serious endeavor. And that's what you need to understand. But as we get older, it's very possible that creativity is killed by everything around us, and we lose sight of the importance of not giving a rat's rear. But it becomes even more important as you get older to do as you wish, especially if it benefits you. And that the anxieties, if eliminated or reduced, will allow you to be yourself. You need to almost tap into your inner childhood and say, remember that time when I was playful and I was just being myself? You need to tap into that. If you're feeling like you're not doing well in certain situations, to figure out what those playful activities were that brought you joy, and to revisit that and to add that into your own life can be very powerful. When you look at older people, you'll notice they might stop you on a sidewalk and say hello, or they will be unafraid of things like social encounters. And the reason for that is they've seen a lot, they've experienced a lot over the years. So when they have gotten to that age, they really don't care what anyone thinks, and they're free to pretty much do as they please. You see if you can kind of tap into that. The people who don't give a rat's rear the most would be kids and seniors. Those two groups, they really understand how to separate themselves from all that. But it's everything in between that becomes so serious. Life becomes so serious, and we miss out on the things that we could have done, the things we could have seen, the things we could have experienced, because we gave a rat's rear. So, to really not give a rat's rear, It's a case of putting yourself in situations where you're worried about what people think, but you deliberately put yourself in those situations regardless. And that could accelerate your ability to not give a rat's rear, or perhaps reverse the issue so that you can return to your childhood form and not become like a man-child or a woman-child, but like an adult who understands that play is important and that it can be implemented. An example would be like a business executive who is pretty serious on the job, but in their spare time, they write books, and their playtime is, that writing and understanding that whatever they write, it doesn't matter. Who cares what people think? So they've understood that that's an important piece to add to create a more enriching life. Like a John Grisham, who is a lawyer, but who also writes books. Very famous. And he would write like a page a day. And the reality is, he was unafraid of creating. Super serious job, but understood that he wanted to write, and he did. And this is an adult. So you can reconnect with those feelings. But you do have to start with some steps. Maybe you're afraid of relationships. You're saying, I don't want to date, or I don't want to pursue such and such a person. Well, you might need more practice so that you can become just more comfortable around others, and then you can become more comfortable in your own skin. The more and more you socialize, the more and more you've built that confidence. And then eventually you just be yourself and not give a rat's rear what the others think, and either they accept you for who you are or they don't. And if they don't, that's fine. You can move on. You don't need to give a rat's rear about that person. And you just move on, and you don't take it personally. Understand that rejection is part of life, and if you're getting rejected more, whether it is a relationship or maybe a job, or maybe you're just getting rejected from random things. You say hello and they don't say hello back. It just means that you're putting yourself out there. It means that you're learning how to not give a rat's rear. That's what this is all about. And the rejection isn't personal. It's just something that just didn't work out. It's not a good or bad thing. It's time to move to the next thing. Time to keep going forward. Although the rat's rear is less relevant when you're a kid or senior, you can kind of just fight past all of that. It just seems like once you hit the teenager years, like early teen, you really start to care what people think. The anxieties start to boil up, and your sense of identity sort of put into question. And that's part of Erickson's psychosocial stages of development, meaning you're kind of sorting through your identity, who you are as a young teen and beyond, and you're struggling with that. And a lot of people sit in that identity phase, and as they're an adult, they don't even know who they are still. You're a 40-year-old or 50-year-old, and you still don't know who you are. So the understanding that you can be anyone you want to be at a young age, like when you think about it, you ask a kid what they want to be when they grow up, an astronaut, a teacher, or a artist, or like a filmmaker. They have these really incredible fun answers, or a drummer, or a musician. And then when you ask them as they're adults, they have these different answers, like, I don't really know, or I want to be a serious lawyer or a doctor. But how often do you see kids really wanting the garbage man job, or actually, there's nothing wrong. I don't know where I was going with that. There's nothing wrong with the garbage man job. That's a noble pursuit. How often do kids suggest a serious type role? What they want to be when they grow up? No, most of them want to do something that seems outlandish. Like, you can never do that. But that's wrong. There are plenty of people who can do that. And those people decided to not give a rat's rear and stick with it and just keep going. If everyone listened to the people who said they couldn't be musicians, there wouldn't be any musicians. But there's tons of them, and a lot of them are actually doing quite well. So to suggest that it's not possible, that's giving a rat's rear, and you don't want to do that. But figuring out that you can still figure it out is powerful. And that the sense of identity doesn't have to be solved. And that exploration is fine at any age. Because that will actually help solidify your identity. It will show your personality as a result. A lot of people just don't take the time to figure out their identity. They don't take that time and answer those questions. But you could. And you really can't answer the questions by sitting there and thinking about it. You really do have to go and do those things. You have to put yourself in those situations. And the discomfort you feel is good. It's important to feel that discomfort, because then you know that you're growing. Okay, this is how to not give a rat's rear.